My name is RoseMarie Rubinetti Cappiello, and I am the author of a book called Speaking from Spirit. Here it is. It's this little book. It is in that library. It's in every library that I've ever been in, and definitely it's in Tuxedo Library. And this book brought me to speak at libraries, and that started about end of 2014. So we're going on our 6th year basically with this. And it started out that I would present mediumship and talk about mediumship and then promote the book. And then it morphed into the libraries asked me back. Some libraries asked me back again and again, you know, and asking what other programs I had. And we've presented quite a few. So at Tuxedo Library, I know we've pretty much done them all. We've done past life regression, and we've done dreams, and we've done telepathy, and we've done, I don't think we've done the empath, what's an empath class, but we've done pretty much all of them. And the libraries are always free, and now they're by Zoom, so even better, you could sit in your PJs if you wanted and not even put on your camera and do this. And they're open to everybody. And so you could come to any of the library events I do. They're like I said, they're always free, and they're most of the times open to everyone. Some libraries will limit just to their population, your patrons. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. But most of them will allow anybody in. So you could always go to my website, and there's a whole list of libraries that I have coming up. Anyway, that's how I got here to speak to you, and that's whatever you need to know is on that bibliography or on my website. So that's where I'm ending that discussion. This class I presented to my online group. I work with an online spiritual community. We meet once a month, and we did this. Actually, it was probably about a 10-hour class, all said and done. So there's a lot of things that I can talk about with this. I've condensed it down for this. But basically what I want to do is present to you an understanding about healing and how we could approach it that in a more empowered or proactive way, but from a very multi-spherical perspective, about not looking at it one way or through one lens, or only dealing with anything that creates an illness or an imbalance in a one-dimensional point of view, because then we're missing so much of its message and what it is actually there for. So you guys that have been, that took the class, because there's a few of you on here, please feel free to add anything I'm forgetting, or remind me of anything that I should go over. All right, so let's start to look at every healing crisis, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, situational, right, financial, something, is always a dark night of the soul. And what I mean by that, it is when our soul is asking us to come to it and to connect to it on a deeper level, and to understand from that perspective, from the soul perspective, not just our human perspective, more than what we're seeing with our 5 senses, with our logical mind, to go deeper. It's literally asking us to go deeper. So every illness or imbalance is an opportunity for us to connect deeper to ourself, our soul self, and to source. Now, it's not a punishment like, you know, well, you haven't been, it's not like God's going, you haven't been paying attention to me, so I'll give you an illness. That'll have to make you pay attention. It's not that at all. It's a call for us to expand ourselves, to go into more, and to access more of ourself and more self-understanding. Always, always, any crisis, any trauma, and any illness in particular is that offering. That is the offering. It's a call to come to the soul. So I want you to think of every illness or situation as a symptom that is asking you or calling you to look a little bit deeper. So say for instance, it's an outside situation, right? You have chaos or some kind of drama or struggle in some area of your life, your work, your finances, and whatever. It's a symptom of something, and it's asking you to pay attention, because everything is seeking to transcend or be in balance or to be in peace. I'll say it in that way, to be in peace. So it's not there to torment us. It's there as like almost an information. And you look at what the situation is, and it will kind of guide you. Now, when it comes to the body, it's the same thing. The body does not like to be ill. The body wants to be healthy and whole and fine and vibrant and strong. And it wants to, doesn't live forever, but it wants to stay vibrant until our last breath. And belief systems will tell that can't be so. But really, what the body is doing is being an agent of the spirit, giving us messages in where it's manifesting some kind of illness or crisis. And so we follow the clues. Now, there's been some books on that, like Louise Hay has some books on that. My friend Virginia had sent me a website about somebody who interprets that. But basically, your intuition will also do the same thing. Or even your logic might say, well, what am I, if I'm manifesting stuff in my arms, what do my arms kind of represent? They represent like how I reach out, touch somebody, hold on to somebody, hold on too tight or don't hold on at all. What do my legs represent? My feet, they represent, how I stand in this world, how I walk in this world. And each of your organs will have those little bit of symbolic things as well. And these would be the clues to maybe something else that is really calling for healing that needs to be addressed. There is usually an emotional component to every illness or imbalance. There is a mental component to every illness and imbalance. So for instance, mental could be either a thought or a belief. So again, we hold a collective thought or collective belief that as we get older, our body is going to, experience things and break down. There's some people that defy that for sure, right? They chronologically age, but their body remains youthful and vital. But collectively, we all kind of buy into that. And so it has become somewhat of a truth for all of us. But what if it didn't have to be? What if that's just a thought, not really a truth? And we challenge it. But there's always going to be a thought or belief and an emotion, and also a spiritual understanding or a spiritual cure for whatever is going on with us, if physically, mentally, or emotionally, that needs to be healed. There's also sometimes energetic imbalances. Illness is sometimes addressed through the chakra system or read or understood through the chakra system. And the idea that once that energy is balanced, then the illness will cure itself. It'll cease to exist. It won't be supported by the lack of energy. There is a perfect storm that has to happen that creates illness in our body. Believe it or not, it's harder than it looks. Even though there's so many people with so many illnesses, it's harder than it looks because our design is magnificent and our immune system is otherworldly. And so there has to be a perfect storm. And two of the things that really contribute to us becoming ill are a loss of energy. Well, actually, there's three. Let me jump my pages here. A loss of energy, a loss of power, and a loss of our spirit, or a piece of our spirit. Now, that could be acute, right? It could happen like in some drastic way. Something goes on, and in that moment, you lose your power, you lose your a lot of energy. You fragment a little bit. We call that a shock, right? A little piece of our spirit gets like stuck, and now I'm talking shamanism. Or it could be more chronic, that you live in more chronic situations that just take your power, take your energy, and you lose a little bit of your soul. Definitely when we don't live authentic to who we are, that will definitely contribute to illness. That'll create death, or living death, even in some cases. So those three things have to be present to even catch a cold. Okay. And so, and a loss of energy could be as simple as the things that contribute to us sometimes our immune system just breaking down, which is not getting good sleeps, and not and being like kind of off our schedule, and worrying too much. Those things burn our energy. But not getting good sleeps definitely leave us susceptible, or those little germs that are around all the time, everywhere, to just kind of have an opportunistic moment. So, but it would, because we'd be energetically low. We'd be down in our chi. You know, we all tell our kids that, right? I know I tell my 21-year-old that, stop burning the candle at both ends, kid. Not that it's paid attention to, but just saying. So, but when there's chronic stuff, you know, we're dealing with chronic stress. And what I mean by that is, because, you know, life is stressful, and all of it always has been, always will be. How we respond to that is really our choices. But like where we, you know, say our work is just constantly putting us in fight, flight, or freeze, or a relationship, or relationships, lots of them. Or the way we just manage life in general, that burns through our energy, that makes us lose power, and in some cases makes us even fragment or lose pieces of ourselves. So those are the things that we control even more than our vitamin C in keeping our immune system strong. Not that vitamin C doesn't help, but that there ain't enough vitamin C or vitamin D that's going to help if you're in a chronic energy loss or chronic power loss. It will not. It will not. So the shamanistic approach to healing was always to kind of retrieve the spirit, get the spirit back. Shamans also would fight the entities or the dark forces that were attacking to create the illness. But I'm a big believer in just holding your energy, your power, and your spirit intact every day. And that will boost your immunity like nothing else. Like basically every day, say, I'm calling my spirit back from any place I left it, calling back my energy from any place I left it, calling back my power from any place I left it or gave it away, and holding it that way. The great healers of our times, Jesus comes to mind when I say this, and Buddha would treat illness like an illusion. So they would look at illness and go, you're not sick. You just think you're sick. Wake up. You know, you're not crippled. You're not blind. Get up. Get out of that chair. You're fine. You walk. Go ahead. And their power, their soul power was so strong that it would break the spell that somebody had in their mind. Like, oh, maybe I'm not sick. Maybe he's right. I'm not blind. Oh my God, I could see all of a sudden. I'm not blind. It would override the illusion. Remember that any kind of suffering, pain, or struggle around here, including illness, is an illusion of the ego mind, our personal one and the collective one. And it has power because we believe it. And we're humans. It's hard not to, right? It's really, really hard not to. But it's all basically the illusion. And all the religions will say this. And to heal would be to break the spell or to break the illusion. Now, some people can have that power as healers to do that. I don't know a lot of them, but some people have the power to do that. They have the soul vibration, they have the juice, the soul power of that to kind of break somebody else's illusion. And especially if it's our own illness, we're a little more vulnerable to our own fear at that moment to override it with our soul power. But certainly there's people that have done this. We've documented this. And I'm not also discounting, our regular healers when I say that, I think of more like our allopathic healers that we put a lot of faith into. And if they tell us we're going to be fine, we can believe that. And if they are not sure, we can believe that too, right? Our allopathic healers. There's a lot of power when a person in the form of a healer, an allopathic healer, says, well, this, you don't get cured of this. Doesn't go away. We'll manage it. That's how we'll deal with it. And not that that's wrong. It's just a limited point of view. It is based on a experienced reality. But I would just say, maybe, maybe not. Let's put some space around that. That's a thought. That's not necessarily true, or that's not necessarily my truth. That's not necessarily my truth. So I don't know. I hear you. Not in denial, but maybe, maybe not. Let's see. And just open space around something like that. But basically, all imbalance here, no matter what it is, if it creates any kind of struggle, if it creates any kind of pain, if it creates any kind of suffering, we best know that it's coming from an unconscious, most of the time, egoic mindset, collective or other, or personal. Healing can be gradual, right? In phases, right? We get better, we peel the onion back, we learn something else, we deal with it in different ways. It can also be instantaneous. I often think about like those people that Jesus would have healed, like get up and walk, right? Or those spontaneous healings that people get in some, situations. That's a lot to change all of a sudden, and you got to train the people around. You had the people trained around you now to do certain things. And now everything's got to change. It's not just like I can get up and walk and do my own thing. A whole bunch changes from that shift of I couldn't walk to now I can walk. And instantaneous healing sometimes can be mind-blowing for us. So there's something to be said about the gradual, even with our impatient human selves. And sometimes healing is a continuous process. It's not achieved all at once. There's steps to it. We grow into a little bit at a time. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes that can go on for lifetimes, not just one. And when I say that, I think of addiction. I think of addiction because that usually takes lifetimes, that one to overcome. So holistic and allopathic it's not one or the other. It's not I do holistic or I do allopathic. It should be I do holistic and allopathic. There's no need for one or the other. Each one is a specialty in and of itself. If I'm an herbalist and you ask me to do surgery on you, I'm not going to really be good at that. But if I ask my surgeon to do surgery on me, that's a good idea. And if I needed, somebody to do massage on me, I'm not going to go to the person that does the radiology, unless they had a massage therapy, certificate too. It's not one or the other. They're specialties, and they all work together. They all work in harmony together, not in contradiction, or it shouldn't be in contradiction. If there is any contradiction, it's the ones we've made to it, or how we feel about it, which is basically judgment and should have no place in this at all. No place in healing at all. So why don't people heal sometimes? Okay. So sometimes you're not supposed to heal. Sometimes your illness is the exit point, and it gives you a chance to kind of get your ducks in a row, or it gives the people around you a chance to come to terms with the fact that you're not going to be here. It gives them a chance to kind of move into acceptance. I'm not saying that always happens, but it's an opportunity. Sometimes an illness is a purpose. It's a destiny. I came here to get this disease. This was what I was born to do. This is how I'm teaching these practitioners, doctors, healers, nurses, some things. right? And it may not be how to heal this. It may be how to have compassion. It may be how to listen to a person better. It may be how to understand something beyond your scope in a different way. Maybe there's a purpose to this. And I'll tell you, the people that I have seen thrive mentally, emotionally, and spiritually through an illness have given their illness a purpose. They've made it a purpose. They've said, all right, if I'm going to be incapacitated here like this, if I got to endure this, then I'm telling you what, I'm giving it a purpose. As I'm doing this, I'm going to sit here and pray for the world. That's what I'm going to do. And, you know, this isn't going to be for nothing. Or I'm going to do it, pull a martyr saint, and I'm going to take on the suffering for everybody else. So this has a purpose. This isn't just random here. So we can do that. I have seen people embrace what they're going through with that mindset. Sometimes we have an attachment to an illness. People will say this all the time, my this, you know, my autoimmune, my cancer, my alopecia, my brain tumor, that's a big, bold statement, we own that then. How about the cancer, the brain tumor, the autoimmune? That puts some space between you and it. You're acknowledging it, but you ain't owning it with that. But some people get attached to their illness. They don't know who they would be without it, especially if it's long-term and chronic. You know, and some people have an addiction, a literal addiction to chaos, drama, suffering, and struggle. And an illness will be just one place that they play that story out. They'll play that story out in every place, in all of their relationships, in their work, in their finances, and in their health. It'll just be another place to be in struggle and pain and chaos. That's beyond illness. That is, I got to clear up that addiction I have to this suffering and struggle stuff. Sometimes it's just a way of life we don't know. And so you don't even know you formed an addiction to it or an attachment to this kind of life. So I'm going to tell you, if you think you got that right now, cancel and delete. Like, I am so letting go of, even if you don't think you have it, just say it in your head. I'm letting go of any attachments I have to addictions, suffering, struggle, chaos, drama. No place in my life, not in any area, not in any spot. I'm done with that. What's allowed? Ease, peace, love, joy, harmony, compassion, abundance. That's all I get in every area. I'm not doing those stories anymore. That's easy enough to do. Of course, some people get a payoff from their illness. But I tell you, I don't run into that much. I'll tell you what I do run into a lot. People that have a shadow loyalty that they don't even know that they have and take on an illness, literally, physically, it's not psychosomatic, because it connects them in some way to someone they love. Like, we talk about it like this. Well, your family has a history of, you know, thyroid conditions. Your family has a history of diabetes. Your family has a history of heart failure. So do I. I do too. Makes me part of the tribe, right? We don't realize that we're doing that. It is such a subconscious thing. But, oh, it's there. And you know when I see it happen sometimes? After somebody dies of something. And then it's like, oh, I got that too. I hope I don't die of that too. But I'm going to suffer. Or, yeah, my dad, he went through a lot with this. I probably will too. Cancel and delete, cancel and delete. You're connected to the people you love by love, not by sitting in their suffering with them, not by sitting in their struggle. In fact, if you take it on, then your job is to transcend it not only for you, but for them. Find another way to deal with it. Find another way to heal it. Try another way to overcome it. Try another way to live beyond it. That's when we take the baton of something, that's what we're supposed to do with it, not do it the same way. We don't heal because sometimes we don't believe we can. So again, if there's those thoughts, I guess anything is possible. I don't know what's possible. I don't know what's true for me. Those are just thoughts that say this. They may not be truths. Just put space. The emotions of shame and guilt and resentment can create illness, because shame is always going to create suffering for us. And guilt is always going to create a punishment, because guilt always feels like I did something wrong and I need to pay a price for that. And one of the ways that happens is, well, now I'm ill. There we go. And when I tell you, it doesn't have to be guilt because you really did something. Most of the times it's unjust guilt. Some guilt that you have over nothing that you should have guilt over. And it will create a punishment, or it will seek a punishment, and a punishment will always make a pain. A mind consciousness of blame, right? Well, it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault, it's the chemical companies, it's the government, it's my neighbors, it was my mother, it was my father, it was this, it was that situation, it was because I got let go of my job. Blame is a victim consciousness. Go back to what I told you in the beginning: loss of power, loss of energy. Right there, that is a hemorrhage. Blame in a victim consciousness. Loss of power and a loss of energy in a hemorrhagic way. That will leave your body vulnerable, for sure. Some things we have, biological fault lines for, absolutely. And there's usually some kind of help or treatment and supports for those. But there'll be, a lot of times there's resistance for those kind of things. I don't need it. I'm not going to take it. I have a brain chemistry thing, but I'm not going to take that meds. Or I have diabetes because there's something off with the way my pancreas functions. So, but I'm not going to take that because I don't want to feel weak. I don't know. Take the support. Take the support, and then adjust your thinking and your emotions around this. Look what the blessing and the message is there. When we live in chronic, constant, toxic situations, we all know this. We'll say, this is sucking the life right out of me. Sure is. Right out of your cells. But we'll endure it. We usually try and endure it for some stoic reason, or some fear of survival, or something. But it will hit our biology. It will hit our biology. And we want to look at where if we have too much energy in our past or too much energy in that future, because that won't leave enough for the present. And then again, vulnerable to illnesses. When we lose our lack of purpose in our life, we will often lose we will have a loss of will. And that can create illness and death. Now, I want you to think of illness in some other ways, some really very positive reasons that sometimes we have illness. Sometimes they're an initiation into something. When shamans were going to be trained, right, as shamans, so you were picked by the shamans to be the next shaman, and you were groomed and trained from childhood. And they would go through like a lot of training, but there was one part where they would have all their bones broken at the same time, so that they would know what it felt like to be a patient and to recover, and what you go through, what your mind goes through, what your emotions go through, what your physical body goes through. It was the initiation to be a healer, to experience something so traumatic to the body. So sometimes we get an illness and it's our initiation into something greater. our initiation into being a healer of some kind. Sometimes it's an ascension symptom, meaning we're going up in a vibration. So if any of you have ever quit smoking, you know that after you quit smoking, you go through this period where you get like bronchitis, you get all kinds of lung stuff, and you're like, oh my God, I'm worse than when I was smoking. I'm hacking more, I got more congestion. What the hell? That's your body purging. Same as when you're clearing yourself from an addiction. Okay. We're coming off, junky foods. There's ascension, meaning I'm clearing out. So to make space for a higher vibration, for a clearer cellular structure. So sometimes when we're going up in vibration, for some reason, we have an illness. It's an ascension symptom. I used to work with a guy. He was a great healer. His name was Gary McCabe. He had like a ton of tools in his tools belt. He used to do work on me. And every time I'd get sick for like 2 weeks, I was like, Gary, what are you doing to me? And he was like, well, I think it's creating some kind of clearing out of some things here. And a lot of it would be in my heart, and a lot, or my lungs, I should say. And the heart chakra, the heart and the lungs represent where we hold grief. So I had a lot of grief to clear out. And a lot of you know the work I do. I mean, I deal with grief all the time on one end or the other, either from the spirit world coming back, or from people dying, and I'm like the midwife helping them, or with my own griefs. I've certainly had quite a few of my own. So I guess that all had to be cleared. So that heart chakra could be more open. Illness sometimes is an empath response. So what I mean by that, I mean that you take on an illness totally symptomatic of it, but it isn't yours. It's somebody else's. Somebody else's migraine, somebody else's IBS, somebody else's, heart murmurs. How do you know this? Well, you don't. You have to know that you're an empath to know that you may be taking on somebody else's illnesses. So what's an empath is someone who physically, emotionally, mentally, or all of the above feel and experience something that does not belong to them. Mm-hmm. Now that could be a little tricky, but I'll tell you some clues to knowing that something is not yours, that you have taken on something empathically. You either get diagnosed and have no symptoms, right? Your blood work comes up with something, but you have no symptoms of it. Or you're totally symptomatic, but there's no blood work or diagnostic stuff that says you have this. And you're like, what the hell is that? I would start saying right away, I don't know whose this is, but I release it for the both of us. This is not mine. This is not my headache. This is not my stomach pains. This is not my whatever. If you think you're empathic, believe me, you're going to have a lot of illnesses that do not belong to you. Illness as a continuation of an ancestral wound. All right. So there's 7 ancestral wounds. Okay. There's abuse, there's addiction, there's abandonment, there's betrayal, there's illness, there's poverty, and there's violence. Meaning a lot of the ancestors that you come from have experienced these things. Okay. Some families have all of them. Some families have 1 or 2. Sometimes you get 3 from dad's side, 2 from mom's. Sometimes the same ones from mom and dad. It's a total mixed bag. But there are some, let's suffice it to say, there's at least some level of an ancestral wound that you incarnated with to either take on or to ascend in some way. There's also inherited traumas. This is a real tricky one, okay? I'll speak for my own. My grandmother lost a child at 9 months. 9 months old, died of scarlet fever. that woman was never the same. She never talked to me about it, but she panicked over her children, panicked. She had tremendous separation anxiety from them, but every one of her rest of her children that came through her body inherited that, and so did their children. So there's a panic that I sometimes feel with my kids that's completely unjustified to the situation, because I'm not reacting to mine, I'm reacting to hers. And so there is inherited trauma, and there is inherited cultural traumas. We're seeing them play out all over the news. Janice wrote, can an empath identify with pain and sadness more than the vibes happy people give off? It seems I feel those feelings more than happiness and elation, or else I'm just not recognizing it as a happy feeling. It's not that we're, an empath will feel all kinds of feelings and all kinds of thoughts and all kinds of physical stuff, but the ones that are uncomfortable seem to stand out more, Janice. So especially if you're like fine 1 second and all of a sudden the sadness comes over you or pain comes over you and you're like, wait, what happened? Right? So, we get a pain in our hip and we'll go, oh, well, just maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I, did too much exercise, or I walked, or I lifted somewhere, I'm of an age, we take it on, we think it's ours, but the ones that are more uncomfortable, we seem to recognize faster than the happier ones. So I don't know, but I know this, that we could switch our focus to, well, if I'm an empath, then I'm going to connect to everybody's good stuff. So I'm going to connect to that feeling of that 20-year-old in their body and the thoughts of this happy person, or the healthy, vital heart of that one. If I'm an empath and I can take on the pain, I can also take on that, bring it. So there's definitely something to be said about where we put our focus and attention to. But I'm glad that you brought that up. Illness as a continuing ancestral wound, right? So look at your family lines, mother and father. And if you're adopted, know that you would have taken on 4 families, you spiritual overachiever, if you're on here. So, and look and see if there was like chronic illness anywhere, like somebody had chronic illness. And that would be maybe why you have experienced chronic illness, because you're just picking up the baton of the ancestral wound of illness that runs through the family. And again, in that recognizing that, it's like, wow, oh, I see why this is manifested in me, but I can let this go. I don't have to continue that story. I can break that pattern. I can heal that wound, not only for me, but for the ancestors that came before me and the ones that will come after me. The story ends here. We do not have to play this any longer. And then watch the body in the next couple of months recover. I had this experience one time in a library. I think it was Nanuet. And this woman told me about her daughter, who was sitting right next to her, that had gone through a lot of traumatic, life-threatening things from the time she was born. And of course, you could only, now the young girl's like in her 20s, but you could just imagine this mother being on high alert her whole life with this kid, like these weird, random, how did this happen kind of, but threatens her life. And then the kid makes it through. And I said to her, this has got a root. This has got a root back into your story. What is the story here? And she said to me that when her mother was pregnant with her, she experienced her sister dying at 16 of a ruptured appendix. Out of the blue, traumatic death. The mother's pregnant here with this woman, traumatized by this situation. This little fetus absorbs that trauma and then grows up and then replays that trauma with her own daughter. As we said it, it felt like the spell broke, felt like it shifted, everything changed. I haven't talked to them, so I don't know. I haven't done a follow-up, but I would bet that that kid got released from that role that she was playing in that family. And what I mean by that, an unconscious role of having to replay that same story of that traumatic feeling that didn't even start with her mother, it started with their grandmother, started with her grandmother's experience. So if there is any of you that are have had these chronic illnesses, or, you know, just having to live with something, look in your family history and then release this ancestral wound for all of you, that this does not have to go on this way. We're always going to look for the root of something, what is causing it. When we find the root, everything else will take care of itself. Everything else will kind of find its balance. The right allopathic and alternative healers will be there. Everything will fall into place. It'll be a perfect storm. Bing, bam, boom, and we're done with it. Whenever you encounter any kind of illness, you want to ask, what is the feeling of this situation? Not how am I feeling about it? What is the emotion that is present to this illness? What is the thought or belief that sits within this illness? Now, you don't get to this with your eyes open. You get to this with your eyes closed, okay? Because your head will jump around and you'll say it like, I feel that this is what it's saying, or this is what it feels. So again, it's not what you're feeling or thinking about the illness. It is what is the thought of this illness? What is the root thought, or what is the emotional core of this illness? And one will be stronger than the other, meaning it will either be more of a thought form created illness, or more of an emotional created illness. You following me with this, or do you have questions on that? You got it? Anybody? I'm going to give you an example. Kelly, I just got it. Okay. So my younger sister calls me and says that this is a few years back. Her mammography came back and she had a breast cancer. Now, what was interesting about this was she goes for a mammography every year. She's very diligent and very studious with her health and does all the right things and eats the right way and, you know, does everything that you should be doing. She went to get ice cream with her son, and the lady that's usually there wasn't there, and the owner says she has a stage 4 breast cancer. We don't know when she's coming back. And it's so weird, Suzanne. It started out as her arm was sore. Her shoulder was sore. Now, my sister getting her ice cream cone is like, wait, what? And she's thinking, my arm has been sore. My shoulder has been sore for a couple of weeks now. All right. Now, sidebar, if this is me, I'm going to the chiropractor, you know, work out my shoulder, you know, this triggers her. She schedules a mammography. She's only like maybe 2 months past when she's supposed to have a mammography. She goes and they come back and say it's breast cancer. So she calls me. And as people that get this kind of shocking news, it's so overwhelming and you don't know what to do first. And, you know, I say to her, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, we get 3 breast doctors' names. We're calling whoever can take us the fastest. That's who we're going to. We call this top one. She's like, oh, I can see you tomorrow. This lady usually got to wait months for. Okay, we're being guided. Everything is falling into place. As we're driving there, I say to my sister, close your eyes. And I said to her, tell me, does it feel like an emotion is in there? Not your emotion. She's like, no. I said, does it feel like a thought is in there? Yes. So this is a totally intuitive thing. I go, what is the thought that's in there? And she says to me, The thought is that I could not handle one of you getting sick right now. So there's 4 girls. My oldest sister died of colon cancer years before this, like 10 years before this. We were all traumatized over this, obviously. My sister, in her mind, was like, I could never go through that again with one of my other 2 sisters. That just about did me in with this one. And in a very unconscious way, it was like, it's easier for me to get this than to have one of them get this. The thought could have also been that nobody gets it, but her fear was so great that somebody was going to get this. It'll be easier for me to get this than and go through this than to have one of them go through this. I can't go through that again. I was like, okay, there we go. You gave it a voice. Done. We'll get there. It'll be over. They'll tell us it's a lumpectomy and you'll be fine. She was like, you really think that? I said, I think that you spoke what it wanted to say. We get there, the doctor's like, what, this? She's looking at the x-ray. This is nothing. This is a lumpectomy. You probably won't even need radiation or chemo, nothing. Can you do it Thursday? She was like, we're like, yes, we'll do it. You want to do it right now? We'll do it right now. Yeah, it was done. It gave her what the message it needed to give her. And what then I could give her was, how about, Suzanne, none of us get cancer again? How about that doesn't have to be? That's not our fate. It's not written in stone. It's not on a tablet somewhere that this has to be. There was a lot of yeah, buts after that. Yeah, but, it's in our family now. Yeah, but we grew up in a place, there's a lot of chemicals. Yeah, but, yeah, but cancel all those, I said. How about we implant a new thought that we can all be healthy and vibrant and that we'll die when we're supposed to, and it'll all be okay. She accepted that. It was still a concept. It wasn't like a knowing yet, but it implanted. But she didn't even know how deep that fear was inside of her until it manifested in a form that we could then deal with it. Because that's what sometimes we have to do, manifest something into form so we could deal with it. So again, you look at to see, is it an emotion? Is it a thought? If so, hear it and let it go. Rewrite the story. Is it mine? Am I playing a role for somebody? Did I take this on ancestrally? Am I holding this because it makes me feel closer to somebody I love? Or it makes me feel part of the group to have this? These are the things you look at when you're confronted with an illness. So Susan wrote, is meditation a good way to feel root thought? Meditation, yeah. I just said, close your eyes, put your hand on your heart. Your intuition will be, I'm right here. I've been waiting to talk to you, pal. Glad you came to me. Go back to what I said in the beginning. What is an illness? It is a call to soul. Kelly says, so just knowing the thought will clear it, or do you need to consciously clear and be guided by healing? No, I think that once we see something, it breaks the spell. My dad, he got lung cancer. And when he got diagnosed, I said to him, how are you with this? And he said, I'm not afraid of dying, but I'm not ready to leave you people yet. You people meant me and my sisters and my mother, and our husbands. That's who you people was, right? I use that term all the time too, you people, to my kids now. So, okay, Dad, if that changes, you let me know, I said to him. He said, okay. But I witnessed where my dad healed, and it was not of the lung cancer. My dad, when he was being diagnosed, was in the hospital. My dad was traumatized from World War II. He felt like he was never the same. This ruined his life, what he had to endure. I also come from a family that doesn't let things go very easily. So he just lived for 50 years or 60 years, just re-traumatizing himself. PTSD, and survivor guilt probably. So we're in the hospital, and the little guy next to him that had come from the VA home had no family. And he just would cry every day because he'd be like, Roger, your life is so blessed. Look at all these people that you have that love you. Because, you know, it would always be me, my sisters, our husbands, everybody would be there. And he looked at my father's life like this great blessing. And my father finally looked at his life like, wow, yeah, it really was kind of blessed, wasn't it? You know, wasn't anything great, but look at all this love I have. That was the first healing. The second healing came when Jack said to him, you think the war traumatized you? Roger, we were heroes. We saved this world. We got to kill these bad guys like we were the greatest thing ever. My father's head spun around like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Like, you saw it like that? You saw it like that? I just saw all this trauma. He was like, no, we were called to service to save this world. My father had to leave this life with that rectified. And, you know, I saw that and I was like, you know what? If he dies, I'm good because he just got the healing he needed, this man. He's not carrying that for another 10 lifetimes. He's not going to carry that burden. And you know what? Those last 9 months of his life, he were the most joyous. He was sick. We were in treatment. They were the most joyous. It was like you had to wait until you died to finally let yourself enjoy this life. Oh my God. It was all there. But he could enjoy it and he felt the joy of his life. It was like his heart was unburdened. That was his healing. It wasn't to clear his lungs. It was that needed to be healed. Those burdens. Definitely I've seen past lives where we have brought in illness. And when we go back to those lives, all of a sudden, what is here clears up. Now, that's not always the story, but I've seen it like a lot. And I'm always intrigued. But if we do that and it doesn't clear it up, it means there's more to the story. It means there's other things that this illness is trying to say. And until we hear what it wants to say, it'll either keep coming back or it won't go away. Then there's some shaman things like entities. Shamans believe we pick up entities, meaning thought forms or emotions that are dark, dense, or negative. And that creates illness. I'll tell you, when you get a virus, which has its own consciousness, or a bacteria or a fungus or a parasite, they all have their own consciousness. They all have their own emotional containers. And they're like an entity. Sometimes an antibiotic just does it for those, but shamans would go in and kind of clear the entity off of us. Sometimes, and I won't get into this too much, when there's like a psychic attack to us, I'm Italian, you know, we come from that whole, you know, you got overlooked kind of thing. Usually we'll feel under the weather, we get a headache, and it's an energetic response to negativity. That's easy enough to clear. That really doesn't make you very sick. It just messes with you a tiny, tiny bit. So, any questions so far? Any comments? Let me say that. How about any comments? Nothing? You're going to let me talk for 2 hours here? An hour and a half? No, nothing? People will ask about negativity, okay? So let's face it, if the people that were negative got ill, you know, there would be nobody left here. We all get negative, for sure. Some people live in chronic negativity, but that doesn't make them ill. More their victim consciousness would do that, or their blame consciousness would do that. But I'll tell you how negativity affects us with illness. Negativity will block our ability to hear our guidance to how to deal with our crisis or our illness. That's what negativity does. It keeps your intuitive voice quiet. Not that that intuitive voice isn't there. It's just the negativity is louder. So our intuitive guidance is trying to guide us through the challenge, or to the help, or to the situation, or to the information we need to do better or to get better, and the negativity will block it out. So that's where negativity messes us up. It doesn't make us ill. Go ahead, Kelly. What do you got? Unmute yourself.
So, can you hear me okay?
I do.
Okay. So I've been, for the last 3 or 4 years, dealing with something that is, they call it unspecified inflammation. They don't know if it's Lyme disease or arthritis, but it's like this intense, achy, swollen joints. So when they do the testing for Lyme, it's like 6 of the 10 are positive for Lyme. So it's like, it's not really, but maybe. It's very undecided. And I've been trying to get to the bottom of it. But in the meantime, I'm not sleeping well. I wake up achy. I go to bed achy. I feel like I'm a cripple, and I'm young. I'm 54 years old. So when you were talking about the ancestral and this, and like, a lot of times I feel like I go through my day and I'm struggling. Like, everything is very difficult physically. Like, I'm running around, I'm taking care of the kids and the cats and the dog and everything. And, I'm cooking dinner, and I go to bed and I feel like an 80-year-old, a 90, like achy, like I can't, I can't walk. And I realized when you were talking about ancestral, I realized like all my family struggled. They were originally from Montana. They were farmers, they were truckers, and they all carried this burden of needing to work themselves to the bone. My grandmother, her mother, my grandmother had polio. She literally had like a hump on her back, and she was little, like 4'9". She had 4 kids, all big trucker men, to cook for. And I realized, like, I'm still carrying the burden of my ancestors, all the strife and struggle, because it was like a badge of honor.
Yeah, and you're literally feeling what they felt in their body. Like, God, I worked myself to the bone. Everything hurts. I'm in bed. It's my final time to rest. And now everything is just screaming in pain because I've been so busy all day. I didn't have time to notice. I was doing more things than I physically should have because I had to. So you're feeling all your peoples, and you're carrying their burden, and you're reliving a struggle in a different way, but still living a struggle. Like, it's becoming a struggle to just be in your body right now.
Right.
So,
and I was like, why am I doing that? I don't need to live their struggles over and over again. Like, I want to clear this, but I don't know how to clear it.
so you go, people, I figured it out. I'm releasing it for all of us. It was a lie for you. It was a mindset, that kept you tethered to a life that didn't have to be that way. I see it. I've created a different life that has a lot of ease and a lot of peace in it and a lot of joy in it. But yet I've still felt what you felt. I'm releasing the struggle for all of us. We don't have to struggle in any way, not physically, not financially, not mentally, not emotionally, not situationally. Life can be easy. It can be joyful. It can be burdenless. It can be free. It can be effortless. That's what I'm manifesting, and I'm doing it for all of us. That's what you say, Kelly.
Thank you.
I'm doing it for all of us, and I'm not carrying it on my back like work. I'm doing it with ease and joy.
Thank you.
What a great connection. Oh my God, I love that. So again, allopathic medicine and as well as holistic will have a specialty and a point of view, but it'll be myopic. It'll be only in a frame of one lens. So you have to go more spherical. And you cannot expect your practitioners to do that. That's not their job. This is our job. to take care of ourselves, but to utilize them as teammates with their expertise to help us. So Kelly, what I'm imagining is some answer is going to come and it's going to be like, oh, yeah, it was this, you know, you got, you know, and there you go. And now you go, wow, it's a miracle. My body, 6 months later, my body feels great. I don't know what happened. And I'll tell you what happened. We talked about it here and it all took care of itself. The message was delivered. But very excellent. That was excellent. Oh my goodness. So, okay. Is there consciousness is helpful to regarding COVID, working with young children not vaccinated? Okay. So I'll tell you, again, viruses and bacteria and funguses, they all have their own mindsets, their own consciousness, and their own emotional core. So if you get an illness like one of those things, you're going to think like them or feel like them, but remember that it's not you. And I'll tell you, I had COVID. So COVID is very angry, kind of rageful. And when I recognize, like, why am I so rageful? Oh, it's not mine. I could feel the difference between me and the virus, almost like again, there was me and there was something else in me. But how do you deal with a consciousness that regarding COVID when you're going into the school? Well, you don't want to go in and look at these like as little germ carriers. You want to go in and look at these kids as little joy in a body. You want to keep your vibration high. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute about how we do that. You want to sit in your gratitude of being there and not your fear of being there. You want to do practices that make you feel empowered. Like, you know, this whole hand washing thing and wearing a mask thing was not like necessarily a proven thing that it would help, but do you know what it did for us? It empowered us to do something to protect ourselves. It made us feel like I'm not just sitting by helpless here. There's something I could do. I could wash my hands, I could wear a mask, and this is maybe going to help me. Maybe not, maybe it is, but at least I feel like I'm doing something. It was an act of empowerment. It was mind-blowing to me that many people did not see it as an act of empowerment. They felt it was an act of disempowerment. So when we feel disempowered, then we have to take our power somewhere else. We saw that, no? So again, it kind of definitely come down to how you look at things, but so do things that make you feel. So if there's an energy practice you do, I'm going in, I'm sealed in my bubble of white light, and I'm impervious to anything that could hurt me. Do whatever puts your mind at ease. Your mind at ease is your biggest immunity. It is your greatest immunity. Because when your mind is in ease and peace, that's what you attract to, ease and peace in all your situations. That's what you manifest. That's what you create. But if you go in looking at them like you little germ carrying kids, you're going in fear. And fear always creates separation. And we don't want to do that. Okay, how do we heal autoimmune issues? Let's look at autoimmune. So again, it would be the same thing. What is my body trying to tell me with this? Get to the place, your body is not betraying you. Your body is not doing something wrong. You want to go, oh my God, you wonderful body. You are speaking my spirit to me. Give it to me. Tell me what I need to know. Look at the symptoms. Where are they manifesting? How are they manifesting? What does this want to tell me? What is the thought of this disease? What is the emotions of this disease? What is the root of this disease? What do you want me to know? Autoimmune, what is it defined as? An attack on ourself, right? Our body attacks itself. It doesn't know what is that it's attacking healthy tissue, right? The immune system is designed to seek and destroy that which threatens our survival, right? And so we're to believe that it got confused, right? There's that guy, Anthony, whatever his name is, celery juice guy, that talks about medical medium guy that talks about that autoimmune, the root cause is a virus that's hiding and the body's seeking it. And so it attacks the system that's hiding it. And I don't know, maybe not. But I would say this, I would say that your body is brilliant. It knows what to attack and what not to attack. And that I would look at where you, am I feeling attacked? Do I attack myself? How do I talk to myself? Do I say nasty things to myself in my head? Do I believe nasty things about myself? Do I betray myself in some way? My experience with autoimmune a lot is we all have an intuition, you know this. Some people hear it louder than others. Sometimes our negativity blocks it out or our fears block it out. It's there though. It will never go away. Some people try and disconnect the wire. It's still there though. But hearing our intuition and following our intuition, two different things, right? Sometimes it's inconvenient, right? I say to my daughters, when you're highly intuitive, sometimes you know stuff you don't want to know, and that is not fun, but nonetheless, you know it. So to me, a lot of times autoimmune symptoms come on when we listen, we hear our intuition, but we don't follow it. We're like, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know that I have to leave this job. Tough, go away. Compromise, give me something else. And I've in my experience, have seen that come out as autoimmune issue. Kim, you got your hand up. What do you want to say?
I think we kind of covered this a bit, but so you and I spoke a while back, and we came to a determination that there was a reason why I needed to be still for a while. However, I feel as if that time has definitely long passed, and now here I am, 7 months later, and I still have a frozen shoulder, and the second one has just gone out. So I'm being immobilized even further yet again. And we are talking about all of this, name it to tame it. And, I understand about shoulders being burden and all of that. And I do understand that, well, you said I was going to be very busy, and you were right. I've, spent the past 7 months launching an airline. So it has been busy. And that has been like a super heavy burden as well. So I know these things and I release these things, but it doesn't seem to be making any sort of difference. So is there a way to come at it that's maybe more general?
So first thing I would say is surrender to what is, because in that will be your peace. Okay. So it may not be what you want, but if you go, I'm going to accept this just the way it is and not have it to, have it to be any different or feel like I have to wait until I'm past this to get on with my life or to do what to live. I'm going to accept it.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. Because immediately, and listen, you might go, listen, I'll accept it. And then 5 minutes later go, no, I'm not. I want it to be over. I want it to change. I want it to be done. I want to get past this. Oh, God damn it. My shoulder hurts again. This really sucks. Okay. 5 minutes on the timer, sit in that space and then get past it again. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
But it to me, I heard it 10 different times when you said this. It's a lesson in surrender. It is a surrender to thy will, not my will.
Yeah. Okay.
It is, but again, when you surrender it, I'm going to accept this. It is what it is. I'm going to just accept it, not need it to change. Yeah. Immediately when you do that, you move, your head and your heart get congruent and you move yourself into peace. And in that moment of peace, you're recreating something completely different.
Okay. That makes
Um,
sense because I did
yeah.
finally have that moment.
Yeah. You know, you have a very, very powerful energy, a very powerful life force, and you're used to being proactive, using the masculine energy of you to get things done. You have a beautiful divine feminine energy of being, of receiving, of allowing, of being receptive. That's much more uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel as powerful to you as the masculine piece of doing. Maybe this is the balance of the yin and yang. Maybe this is the balance of how about your mind needs to surrender to me, Kim. And when I say me, Kim, I mean your soul mind.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so it, you know, this is a definite inside job. Yeah, but, and wait, I just dropped all my paper, sorry. But let me go to a couple of things that help with everything. And I'm going to see some of these other things down here. So how do we heal, or how do we address healing? My top one, surrender to what is, because that equals peace. And when we're in our peace, even if it's for only a second, we attract, manifest, and create peace. Our peace. So we all think about forgiveness, right? Well, I got to forgive this situation. I got to forgive. No, we don't. We got to just accept it. So if you say, well, bad things happen to me, I can't forgive that. I'll say, okay, fine. Just accept that it happened. That right there will neutralize so much stuff. I accept it. I have a student, his name is Harlan. Oh my God, do I love this kid? I can't even tell you the things that this kid has gone on in his life. He is a bright light of joy. I'm like, kid, I don't get the right cream in my coffee and I'm thrown for weeks. You've endured horror, and how do you do this? I accept it. I accept all that is. I'm like, oh my God, teach me how. You have to remember that sometimes death is the healing. What I mean by that, especially, is with addiction. Sometimes we look at people and we see them suffer with addiction, and we think they'll get past, they're going to get past it with just a little more treatment. They'll wake up. But sometimes their death is a release of that chronic suffering. Death is their answer. I told you about giving an illness a purpose. So my cousin, she gets Guillain-Barré virus. This is 2 years ago, May. She was in her mid-70s. This is kind of dangerous at any age, but at that age, she becomes paralyzed from the neck down, basically. They have to intubate her because you lose your ability to breathe. And then it's like your body comes back, but they don't know when. So you got to just kind of wait this out. Can't tell you when. We know it will. We think it will, but so completely incapacitated. To me, this is a fate worse than death, right? I'm like, thank you that you didn't give me this. I would have lost my mind. I would have gone insane with this. I know I would have gone insane. She's as calm as anything, peaceful. I go to see her, and she would be like just staying there real calm. I go, what are you doing? And she couldn't talk, but she could mouth words. Praying, she would say, praying to get better. No, praying for the world. That's how she got through it. She was like, what else could I do? Can't even eat anything. I was amazed. But what was the most amazing was watching her do this. She looked like in total peace. There was not a struggle in her. I'm like, oh my God, how do you do that? I barely can, again, maintain myself until I have a cup of coffee. This woman is facing this horrific situation for weeks on end, months on end. She's putting a purpose to it. Set an intention. Set an intention no matter what the prognosis is. So the intention is, I'm gonna hold my peace through this. I am going to stay in a state of grace with this. I'm going to heal this. I'm going to get past this. I am going to go on a journey and find out things I didn't know I was going to find out, or even that I wanted to find out. Set an intention. Trust that you're being guided. If you didn't trust it before, now's where you really got to trust it. Know that you will get negative. We're humans, but sit in that place. Don't live in that place. Have a moment, but don't live in that place. And know that that will just drown out your intuitive voice, but your intuitive voice is there. Honor it. Don't try and make yourself wrong for feeling negative. You're human, but put it on a timer. Go in and seek guidance. Now, guidance is best when you have a partner that maybe you could speak it to. So you say, I don't know, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, maybe, I'll go to Kelly. Maybe I should change my diet. They said maybe I'm going to need prednisone, maybe I need a specialist. How about an energy healer? Maybe I could do this. All right, Kelly, close your eyes. What do you feel? I feel like I just need to go to sleep for a little bit today, right now. That's my guidance for this moment, right? I'm guided to go on this webinar tonight. Listen to your guidance. It'll be in the moment. And I dropped my paper. It will be direct. It will be clear. There's never been a better time to go intuitive. But when you have a witness to it, right, you're speaking it to someone. You'll hear where it isn't clear. They'll hear where it isn't clear, and you'll get clear. And it will be, and when it is clear, it'll be solid. It'll be like, now we said it, and now we know. You'll be like, you can't not know it now. Release, this is a hard one, especially if it's not you ill. Release any attachment you have to the outcome. Dana wrote, could illness happen to have you meet certain people in your life? Most definitely.
Can you
Go ahead, what?
can you explain that? Release any attachment? Can you say that again and then further explain that?
Release the attachment to the outcome. So in other words, I have a brain tumor and I don't want to die. I want to live my life, but that's my want. That may not be what's my destiny. So I'm going to release my attachment to the outcome of what I want and let it be whatever it's supposed to be. Go back to Kim. I want these frozen shoulders gone. I want to be able to move my arms, do what I want, go where I want, be who I want to be, get this past me. And that's I'm attached to having that be the outcome. Who wouldn't be, right? But when we surrender the attachment to the outcome, I'm going to surrender to the outcome of this, whatever it is, I'm going to accept it for all that it is. I'm not gonna make it right or wrong. I'm not gonna resist it. I'm just gonna let it be. And when it no longer needs to be, or it won't. Erica, what do you mean light carriers? Not sure. Did I miss something on here? Oh wait. Is there a way to heal a narcissist, or at least protect or heal the person the narcissist is manipulating for 30 years? I have a friend with a chronic pain, depression, and low self-esteem. Oh, I wish, right? I would speak, Janice, we've talked about this. I would speak to that person's spirit, both of their spirits, they're both of their souls, and I'd say to the narcissist, wake up, this is not who you are. Come back to your right self. And I would say to your friend, you're okay, you're fine, your spirit is in charge. You're in your power. Remember who you are. Remember your power. And again, release the outcome to how you think it should be. We don't know what story they're playing out. We don't know what this is creating a healing or balance of. This This lifetime is only one lifetime of many chapters.
Okay, thank you.
When you said not to see the children as germ carriers, I suggested light carriers. Oh, I like that. Erica says to see the little kids as light carriers. Yeah. So some of you have heard me say I always call on angels before I do an event. I always have angels I work with. So I say to my healer angels, go to everybody that's on here and work with them and do whatever you need, in whatever way they need healing, including me. And I have joy angels. And I say, go to everybody on here, including me, and help us wake up and remember our joy and feel our joy and experience our joy. Those ones, they look like little kids and they giggle and they laugh, and I see them on monkey bars a lot. So, and then there's a whole bunch of prosperity angels too, I send to you all. So if you have abundance this week, know that it was those angels doing their job. This is a big one with healing, okay? Be willing to transform. Be willing to transform. That sounds like an easy one, but it is not. It's probably the hardest one, because we go, what do you mean transform into what? What is going to happen? What's going to change? I don't want anything to change. Don't change anything. I've had people come to me. I've had family members that I've seen what I call going to like the hole, right? And what they're doing is going into that space where the soul is going to them. Listen, if you want to continue on in this life, fine, we'll get past this. But some things are going to have to change in your life. You're going to have to stand up for yourself a little bit more. You're going to have to say no a little bit more. You're going to have to set some boundaries a little bit more. You're going to have to let this go and move on. You're going to have to. No, I can't do that. And they'll die. They'll go. They'll die. Their soul made a choice. Like they're not going to change the situation. So it's like, okay, then we're done with this right now. We'll move on. So be willing to transform, because an illness will transform us. Even if it's a cold, it will transform us. Look for the root cause, the thought, the belief, and the emotion, not how you're responding in thoughts and beliefs and emotions to it. The thought and the root, or the thought and the emotion, that's the root of the illness. That is going to be your answer. Have people pray for you, but not like prayers like, oh God, please, please help them to get better and heal. Help them to get past their illness. Prayers, soul prayers of grace that would go, bring them whatever they need, help them to know their light and their perfection and their power. Send all the right helpers to them, give them the grace and the power to endure. These are soul prayers. And I release my attachment to whatever the outcome is. That would be a follow-up to that. Raise your vibration. So this goes for our immunity. This is where Rochelle can go into school, okay? Yes, prayers help and uplift us. Absolutely. So praying for somebody is a great service then. But again, a soul prayer is not a willful prayer. Like, this is what I think should be done. I think you should send them $1 million, get them divorced from their husband, get them a brand new job, and give them a boob job at the same time. And I think then that will work. That's what I'm asking for. That's not a soul prayer. Soul prayer is give them the grace that they need. Let them know what I know. Their spirit is perfect and divine. They are more powerful than they know, and bring them all the help and support that they need. That's a soul prayer. Raise your vibration. So how do you raise your vibe? So when you're in a high vibration, then you attract high vibration situations, experiences, to you. You create that. You experience people like that. So how do you raise your vibration? Joy, peace, love, gratitude. So you want to look at everything in your life. I just had this discussion with somebody today, and you want to make your choices based on, does this bring me joy? Am I going to enjoy this? Because if it's not bringing you joy or you're not enjoying it, it goes. And you're going towards the joy. Now, pleasure and joy are different. Pleasure is of the body. My friend Gary McCabe, the healer I talked about, he taught me this many, many years ago. Pleasure is of the body. Joy is of the soul. So you could eat a chocolate ice cream and enjoy it, right? You taste it, it's cold, there's flavors, it goes in your belly. You could also eat a chocolate ice cream and go, I shouldn't be eating this. Oh my God, it's going to give me such pains in my inflammation. This going to, yeah. Don't even bother then, because you just ruined it. Okay. But you could enjoy an ice cream, your body and all its sensations, all your tactile sensations will experience that. But if you go, oh my God, I'm eating this chocolate ice cream. Thank you that I am here to have this experience. This is the greatest thing. I'm alive to eat this ice cream. And somebody was brilliant enough to think of how to make this. And then somebody actually made it. And then somebody drove it to the store where I could buy it. And I had the money to buy it. Oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. That's joy. That's gratitude. That's beyond enjoyment. And that puts things off the charts. And then you're attuned. So now the universe is like, oh, joy and enjoyment, send more, send more. And you could consciously do that. You could go, I am so enjoying this right now. This is such joy right now. And universe, send me more of that. And again, when we're ill, sometimes we're blocked to that, but that's still readily accessible to you. And if you're having any trouble with the joy piece, think of times in your life where you felt extreme joy. Like maybe when your kids were born, or when somebody paid you a compliment, or with our pets. I mean, they're just joy in a body. They come egoless, joy in a body. They come personality, but they come egoless, joy in a body. I'll tell you, one of the greatest helps for every illness, mental, physical, or emotional, is a pet. I mean, we actually call them now emotional rescue dogs and emotional pets and my emotional support this. Oh my God. They don't even know what these little healers are doing. They turn our life because they bring the joy. They make us remember the joy inside of us. Do not underestimate those little hamsters, cats, and squirrels, and birds, and doggies. They are the master healers. And when we're sick, what we need more than anything is doses of joy with a gratitude chaser. You saw the commercial, the little kid in the hospital bed, and the nurse comes in and she goes, more treatment. And they go, no, another thing. And they bring the dog in and she gets all lit up. That's the healing right there. Be a summoner of the soul. So you speak to somebody's soul. So when somebody's sick, you say to their soul, I know you're in there. I know that you're powerful beyond what you even know. I see you. I know that whatever needs to be healed, you can do it. I acknowledge you. Again, one of my practices, again, good for my mind as well as my body. Every day I sit, I call back any power I gave away or lost. I call back all of my energy from every direction at time. I call back my spirit from any direction at time. And I feel like I start my day whole. And again, remember you're being guided to the right partners, practitioners, supporters, people that are going to help you with their experience, expertise to assist you on this journey. Release the outcome. Go for the ride. Address this at every angle. Questions, comments, what do you got? Nothing? Come on, something. I think people were texting me too. Maybe not. My own crazy family. What do we got? Kelly, I love it. Erica, thank you. So anybody else have any insights into their own illnesses right now? Or into maybe somebody you see going through any of this now? Just give you something to think about. Kelly, go.
Hey, Ro, this is Kelly's daughter, Hannah.
Hannah, hi.
Hey, hi.
How are you,
Good,
Hannah?
good. I have a question.
Mhm.
When you pray to the universe or higher good, do you speak to it, or how do you mentally like reach out with your consciousness,
All,
or
I yell too. I
Okay.
demand too. Yeah. And any and all. Sometimes it's just thoughts, sometimes it's out loud. And again, sometimes it's more of a demand. Yes. Mhm.
Great.
Any and
Okay.
all. You're heard. Mhm.
Thank you.
How do you do it? How do you do it?
Usually I mentally say it, like I say it mentally, but I also find that it's more powerful to reach out like with your consciousness and to like do it with your spirit. It's different.
Yeah. What you're doing is going into a theta brain state and going like up and merging with the consciousness. We call it going into the power. So that's different than like a mental thought. It's like merging with the power. It's not just your consciousness, it's your spirit. And it's a blend of your consciousness and spirit blending with the consciousness of all and the power of all.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a very
Great.
powerful healing. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for your feedback, and this has been great so far. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Hey,
What
Rob,
else? Yeah.
it's Lori. Well, you know my whole thing, so that's why I've been quiet. I mean, we've done so much work on this, but one of the suggestions I wanted to make that you might want to share with everyone else I found so helpful was knowing about your team and how you actually do call on all that, because that's different perspective than many things.
So what Lori's referring to is like how I was telling you that I have my angel teams that I call on. And we actually do a class on this, building your spirit teams, connecting with your angels and guides. But you make a team, I make a team for everything. Like I have a team that helps me prepare for an event, whether it's through Zoom or in person. And they're basically like the angels and guides that support me. Tonight, because we did healing, I called on Padre Pio to be here, and Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, obviously. I also called on my kind of go-to guys, which are Father Michael Judge and Albert Einstein, believe it or not. And tonight, I usually call on them with just my dream stuff, but I called on them tonight as well. Jung and Freud, because we are talking about mental health as much as and emotional health as much as physical health. So I make teams of people in the spirit world that can help or assist or have expertise or experience, and I consciously ask them to come in and support whatever we're doing tonight. They'll give me downloads from time to time, or they'll have somebody bring something up so that we know that we have this unseen support that can help us, and that does help us, whether we know it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not.
How do
Thanks,
we,
Lori.
how do we learn who those angels and guides that we need to ask to form those teams? How do we need
There's
to
a
buy
lot
a
of
book?
yeah, there's a lot of angel books. Let me give you some of my favorites here. See, I love that I'm in my own house, that I can go right to my books. So this book is by Doreen Virtue. It's Archangels and Ascended Masters. I don't even know if you can get this anymore. But she kind of gives a little synopsis on a lot of archangels and ascended masters and a lot of the goddesses from all different cultures, from the Roman culture, the Greek culture, the Celtic culture. She gives little synopsises on them. So it's not just within the scope of your own religious upbringing. In Catholicism, there's the saints. They all have a specialty. I'm talking go bigger, broader. Go to all the religions, go to all the history, go to all the philosophies, and call on whoever resonates with you.
I
This
was
book-
able to borrow that book from the library.
Were you really? Nice, because I don't know if we can get it anymore.
Yeah.
This book I love, the Encyclopedia of Angels, Spirit Guides, and Ascended Masters. It's a pretty big book. This is really comprehensive, and again, it talks multicultural and multi-religion of deities that had specialties and that you could call on. To me, this is a way to expand beyond our own, again, religious beliefs that are wonderful, but can be one-dimensional. This gives us access to many more, many more.
That
Who
was
is
called the
the
Encyclopedia of
author?
Angels.
One, go ahead.
Who is the author of that?
This one, Encyclopedia of Angels, is Susan Gregg, Gregg.
Thank you.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Who else?
That was what I was going to ask too.
Mhm. Okay, so unlimited to, hold on, I'm getting some books. Okay. So not just angels and guides, we also have animal spirit helpers. This book from Stephen Farmer is probably my favorite. So whenever an animal crosses your path, in indigenous cultures, especially Native American cultures, that animal is bringing you a message or an energy or a medicine, and or was claiming you as theirs, giving you their power as well. So this one kind of would give you some animals that you could call on for specific things. This book as well, Animals Speak by Ted Andrews. And then there's a lot of like goddess cards that you could get from Doreen Virtue, or there's a couple of Alana Fairchild, love her cards. They're like messages more than they teach you about the different specific deities. Oh, Kyle Gray too, love him. Okay, so like these little decks of cards, fairies, goddesses, Alana Fairchild, Mother Mary. Remember with these people, they don't go, let me see your card and see if you're qualified for this, or you have my religion. They don't do that, okay? They're non-denominational. You just go to them. You don't have to subscribe to the religion they're affiliated with. And they will guide you. My mother had a devotion to the Blessed Mother. And, the Blessed Mother is filled with compassion. My mother was a woman that had tremendous ability to accept what is and to surrender to God's will. But she just was like, well, whatever is supposed to be, or, it's God's will. So like the biggest tragedy could happen and she'd be in her total peace, like, well, it's God's will. I'd be like, how do you do that, lady? How do you do that? But it was innate in her. And I really feel like she got that straight from the Blessed Mother. She had that thing with her. I want to go over some books. They are also in that handout that came with your email today with your link for today. Where's my books? So Carolyn Myss, MYSS, wrote a lot of books on healing. She wrote one of her first books is called Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. And she talks a lot about chakras and things like that. But basically what she talks about is energy and how it's this loss of energy and this loss of power that leaves us vulnerable and kind of how to get that back. She has tons of books, but I'll tell you, I like her best on audio. So if you're going to get one of her books, I would suggest doing it as an audio book. She also has tons of YouTubes and podcasts, all on healing. Well, not all on healing, but a lot on healing. One of her greatest books, my all-time favorite books of hers, is called Invisible Acts of Power. And remember what I told you, we get sick because we lose power and we lose energy. And one of the big places that we lose power and energy is in our own thoughts, right? We're in our heads. I shouldn't be having this. This is terrible. Why is this happening to me? This sucks. I can't wait till it's over. I can't live my life till it's over. I'm going to overthink. I'm going to overdo. We just lose tons of energy. But when we do something for someone else, I used to give this as an assignment to my students at Montclair. I'd call it 2 acts of service they had to do. When we do something for somebody else, as simple as even holding a door for somebody else, it not only gets us out of our head, disrupts that whole train of crazy thinking, it empowers us, it brings a flood of power to us, and we feel good about ourselves, and we can't feel bad and good about ourselves at the same time. So it's like this huge boost to us. So we think we're helping somebody else, but it's really to help us. So with this Invisible Acts of Power book, she writes all of these stories, like examples of this. So I love that book because it was really inspirational and showed me like kind of how it's done. She also wrote a book where there's a big long audio series called The Essential Guide for Healers. So if any of you do healing work of any kind, again, allopathic or holistic, you want to be the best healer you can. And that would be to have no attachment to outcome, to not come from your ego, to be able to surrender outcome and just kind of deliver your skill set. So that her Essential Guide for Healers would be a must-have for you. How do you help someone heal, Dana wrote, that does not believe there is anything wrong? You don't, you can't. There is nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. That's a story of addiction for sure, right? It's not me, it's you. There's nothing wrong with me. You do know that you cannot argue with that. There is no logic and reasoning for that. And when you try and assert that, all you'll do is lose your energy and your power, and you'll get spun around. You'll get manipulated. So if somebody is in their denial, recognize it as that's where they need to be right now for some reason. This is a safety and survival mechanism, same as what an addiction is. An addiction is a maladaptive safety and survival mechanism. And when there is something else, we won't need that, or that person won't need that. But we have to honor where people are at. We cannot make them, even when we know it's not the right thing or what they need to do, we have to honor where they're at. I went through that a lot when my sister was sick. It was very hard, and I kept having to go back and surrender my will, and I had to keep redirecting to how can I be of my best service to her without having it be the way I think it needs to be. It was a lesson, trust me. It was hard, and I didn't always do it well, but you have to meet somebody where they're at. You cannot make them go higher until they're ready to do that, or wake up even until they're ready to. Louise wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life. Hold on, I got that somewhere here. Oh, and you can see how old it is. It's all bent. So Louise Hay was like the foremother of this kind of movement of understanding illness from a different perspective. So this little book has all kinds of like illnesses in it. And then she would give like the root cause or belief cause, and then an affirmation to it. So this was a good start. But again, the affirmation doesn't always take until the root belief is weeded out. So, and that's not always done through this book. Let me say it like that. But you could look up anything, like even gray hair. Do you want to know what gray hair is? It's stress, a belief in pressure and strain. That would be the mindset, the unconscious mindset, or a belief that as I get old, that this is what happens, or my mother went gray at 30, so I'm probably going to go gray. On a physical level, my friend Gary would say it was a copper deficiency. Could be any and all those things. It could be some of those things, none of those things. But if you cancel any of the beliefs, limiting beliefs, then what you would plant in there, I am at peace and comfortable in every area of my life. I am strong and capable. And then we'll save tons of money, I guess, on dye. I don't know. We'll see. But that's how Louise Hay addressed it. Love, Medicine, and Miracles was by Dr. Bernie Siegel. He was also, he worked with Carolyn Myss as well. And he wrote about how he would see miracle healings happen from people that had like really bad physical stuff going on. I do a lot of work with this stuff called Theta healing. It's kind of a little bit what Hannah was talking about, going into the consciousness of the creator. So it's Theta healing is like a technique of healing, and it's by Vianna Staibal. Dying to Be Me was written by this Anita Moorjani, and she was literally dying of lymphoma. I think it was either lymphoma or leukemia, like actively dying, like her body was shutting down. They were preparing to die. And she had an epiphany in that state that, she wasn't being her true self, and she had denied herself or hated who she was. And in that was like that soul kind of thing I told you about. Are you going to change that? Can you change that? Can you live a different way? And she kind of accepted the challenge, came out and was like, yep, everything is changing around here. And like within months, she had no more cancer. People were studying her, like, what the hell happened? Where did that go? It's a very inspirational book. The Shaman's Way is also about how shamans heal. And there's a lot of book on shamanism. A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, one of the very first books I ever read in about metaphysical stuff. And she talks about how our disowning of our perfection has created a lot of our disease or struggles or pain. Yeah, Erica, I love that book. That's a book to read over and over again too. Transforming Fate into Destiny by Robert O'Hara talks about how when we're in alignment with our spirit, we live our destiny. And when we kind of live from our head or our ego, we create our fate, and how our soul creates ease, peace, love, and joy, and how our destiny. And even if there's challenges, we'll feel all that ease and peace and love and joy. But if it's our ego mind in control, there's going to be some struggle, pain, all kinds of stuff with that. A couple of good books on trauma. The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk, I think her name is. So whenever we experience a trauma, there's a cellular memory, and there is a change in our brain state. Both have to be addressed, rewritten, and gotten back into a different mode. So this is now just starting to be addressed. Big. You're going to see a ton of books. And there's a new book by Oprah and this Bruce Perry, I think, called What Happened to You? And they both talk about how trauma impacts our brain states, our brain waves, basically, and our cellular memory, and how to kind of rewrite that story in the body and basically bring back the joy. Wounds into Wisdom kind of speaks about the same thing. These are books on trauma. If you want to know more about like entity attachment, things like that, there's a book called Remarkable Healing. That's a pretty trippy book. There's some things that I definitely have worked with, but I'll tell you that is not as common as that book would make it sound to be, entity attachment. Wayne Dyer put out Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. He was basically saying, look at what you're thinking and see how that's manifesting. But I'll tell you that a lot of this stuff comes more from the subconscious. So it's not in our conscious thoughts. So that's where that book kind of got a little off for me. Deepak Chopra wrote a lot of books on healing. And one of my favorite books, this is my Bible, I'll tell you, is the Tibetan Book of the Living and the Dying. This book. This is a book like you got to read 2 pages at a time and digest it for a week after that. But it talks a lot about healing. It talks about living your life in joy. It talks a lot about dying consciously and not resisting that and being okay with that. And I'll tell you, this part of the world is not okay with that. And we have to do better with that. We have to do better with that. So, all right. So I kept you a long time. It did go to 2 hours. Are you all over? Are you? It's going to go one of 2 ways. You're either going to be all wound up, you'll need a glass of wine to bring you down, or an Advil or something, or you're going to be like overwhelmed and crash after this. I don't know, but we did a lot. Any comments? Anything you want to say? Unmute yourself.
I'm going to
Speak
say thank you. You are an angel.
now. Oh, thank you. Thanks.
And you look great in that color.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. My husband said, wear the green. You look really nice in that color. So he does good by me, picks out my clothes. Good for, he does better than me.
Thank you so much for sharing. Really.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Nice to see you. Who else? Anybody?
I really enjoyed it, Ro.
handout.
Thank you for the handout. Okay, good. Who else?
I'd like to recommend Rose's book. If you haven't read it, it really is inspiring.
More so now than ever. More so
Yeah.
now than ever. Yeah. Oh, look
Hey,
at the mom
Ro.
and the daughter. I love it.
We want a
Nice.
list of the books. Can you email us or
They
share
are
with
in,
us?
they are in that handout. They are in that handout that came in your email. So
Thank
just
you.
download that and they're right on there.
Good to see you, Ro. Thank
Good to see
you.
you. Good to see you.
Thank you, Ro.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
James.
Be healthy.
Yes. So, good. Everybody's good. All right. So, and again, if you need to email me or reach out in a text, I'm available. You could go to my website. Again, join my email list. If you're not on it, you'll know the libraries I'm going to. Any questions you have, again, email or text me. I'll be happy to answer them. But thank you for joining me tonight. And I hope this brings good insight that you could be bringing back into your own life with your own peoples. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Downloading the books now.
Good, good. Okay, good. And Diane, thanks again
Bye.
for having me. I really appreciate it. Look forward to coming back to your library, one way or the other.